Hello, everyone. How you doing, Internet? I'm Dan Casey, and welcome to today's episode of Nerdist News Talks Back. It's our weekly over-the-top talk show about all things pop culture, and thank you so much for joining us. On today's show, we have more to cover than a California king-size comforter. I'm talking from the latest and greatest in the world of TV reboots to the weakest and bleakest in the world of Avatar: The Last Airbender. We've got you covered. Then we're talking about the return of movie theaters, the good, the bad, and the buttery. And from there, we're going to talk about everything from flying cars to waking nightmares and hologram machines designed to bring the dead back to life. What could possibly go wrong? And last but not least, we're breaking down everything that you need to know about DC Comics fandom, the impact of those layoffs, and so much more. That's right, all of this and more on today's show. And there's so much to get into, but I can't do it by myself, so please help me break it down. Let's meet our panel. Joining us today, she's an extremely talented artist, and you can see some of her artwork in the comics she said destroyed by Vault Comics, and so much more. Please welcome Liana Kangas.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks so much for having me on.
It's going great. I'm so glad that you can join us today. All right, next up, he's the director of operations at Top Count Productions and the graphic novelist behind La Voz de Mayo Tatarambo. It's Henry Barajas.
Hey, everybody. Thank you.
So glad you're here, Henry.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me. That's the NPR response, right? Every time someone's on NPR.
The inflection right and everything. All right, and last but not least, she hosts Viz Media's Got Manga and Total Nerds Button Mash, and you can catch her each and every week on Hunters Entertainment's tabletop RPG streams. It's Michelle Wynn Bradley.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Ooh, the semaphore even. I love it.
I'm very excited to be here.
Fantastic. All right, folks, let's get this show on the road. It's time first for our weekly segment that I like to call Should You Still Be Wearing a Mask in Public This Week? And let's see. Oh, the answer is yes. Still same as last week, same as next week. You should be wearing a mask. It's not violating your freedom. It's science. Moving right along. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Bat news. That's right, folks. We're going to be covering all things DC Comics later in the show. But first, there's a brand new Batman game might be on the way. On Monday morning, IGN reported that WB Games Montreal may be teasing a brand new Batman game based on the fan favorite Court of Owls storyline, in which Batman runs afoul of a secret society of Gotham's most powerful families who have been secretly controlling the city from behind the scenes for generations. Tricky stuff. So first of all, what do you think of this news? And is there a Batman storyline you'd most like to see as a video game? Michelle, let's start with you.
I think the coolest part about the news was like the little video that they put out with like, go to this website and then there's going to be a secret code in a couple hours, and everyone immediately went into the like coding, was like, oh, hey guys, I found it. But I like that they were smart enough to not upload all the code before, like, because that otherwise it would have been just like done and out. Yes. So, you know, good job, marketing team, whoever realized that hacking existed. Very good. As far as storyline, I don't know. This isn't comics, but I have this strong affinity for the Batman and Robin movies, and I would just really like for us to revisit that. Even though I think it was already made into a game, but let's go back and revisit that. And, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger as Dr. Freeze and Alicia Silverstone and all the mess that was a glorious time to be alive.
I would lose my mind if they could do a classic Batman and Robin with a modern AAA veneer. That is a terrific suggestion. Also, right? I just want more of those McDonald's collectible glasses. I lost them along the way, but truly an all-time collectible. Henry, what about you? What do you think of this news that they're going to maybe adapt Court of Owls into a AAA experience?
Well, I'm a sucker for Batman. I've been watching Batman since the animated series came out. It's refreshing that they're tapping into more stories that aren't Frank Miller's Year One or The Dark Knight Strikes Back. There's like DC's putting out their like 1,000th DC like Detective Comics appearance of Batman. So there's a plethora of stories that we can mine from. And yeah, I mean, I would love like another Batman the Animated Series video game. There was a Batman Vengeance or for Xbox back in the day that I loved. So that's something I would love to see come back.
Yeah, I also just think that it'd be nice to get, as much as I love the aesthetic that WB Games Montreal and Rocksteady have established with the Arkham series, I would love to see them make a game of that stature with the Batman the Animated Series aesthetics, like that Bruce Timm style of animation. I think that could be super fun in a giant kind of like open world game like that. Liana, what about you?
So if you couldn't tell, I'm a huge Bat fan. So I think that they did a great job with the Arkham games and the way they teased the marketing, like was already mentioned. The fact that it has anything to do with the Court of Owls, like I love Snyder's run, it's awesome in any form of sense. If it's derived from anything from that or any other comic stuff, I'm super excited about it. I think more comics writers should get into video game writing for sure. It seems to be really successful with like, Sam Mags and things like that. But I would love if it was in the Bruce Timm style to do Batman Beyond. We haven't gotten anything since the animated series for that. So.
Well, you are clearly the chat's favorite person because SD Joker also in the chat was asking for a Batman Beyond video game. And Justin Richards wants a Last Halloween detective game. That could be super fun as well. And also previous guest John O'Diener in the chat. Hi, Jono. Says great crew. Yeah, I think that would be. That would be super fun. Just like give me some Terry McGinnis. So you can have fun with like kind of the future tech that we haven't really seen in a Batman game yet. And God. Yeah, now I want that as well. I just want more Batman Beyond in my life, period. I mean, I think that we could all stand for a little more Terry these days. We've had enough Bruce. Let's move him aside, and we're getting plenty of Batman. Let's get some Batman Beyond in the mix. But speaking of relics of the 90s, let's move away from Batman for a second because TV executives sure as hell remember the 90s because we're getting wave after wave of never-ending reboots, revivals, sequels for all sorts of classic films and TV shows. Case in point, Hulu is relaunching The Animaniacs. They're getting 12 new episodes this year, and I think 12 more episodes next year. NBC's streaming service Peacock, which is a real thing, is making 2 revival series, including Saved by the Bell, in which AC Slater and Jesse Spano are now teachers at Bayside High. And they're also attacking Clueless, which already got a TV series back in the day, but now they're reframing it as a present-day comedy mystery following Dion, Cher's best friend, who's investigating Cher's disappearance. So my question to you folks is, which of these reboots are you most excited for and why? And you prefer that they take the same approach like Animaniacs, which is just kind of more of the same but modern, or a wildly different route like Clueless is taking? So Liana, let's start with you on this one.
I think the weirdest one that stands out to me is the Clueless one because it seems the most mysterious in that we haven't seen a lot of, I guess, follow-up TV shows in the future. Like I tried watching the reboot of Boy Meets World and stuff like that, Fuller House and things like that, just to, relive childhood. But I never really get into them, probably because I'm like, I spent enough time kind of looking at that already. But that one, obviously, I love the Clueless movie, so I think that one is the most interesting by far.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I appreciate when they try to just address the fact that it is years later and like, why are we returning to this universe? What's the point apart from a shameless cash-in on script mining nostalgia from our youth? It's at least from like the description, I'm intrigued as to where it could go because it sounds like a very different genre experience from what we got from the original Clueless, but hopefully keeps that same spirit of the original, even though the director of the original is not involved. Michelle, what about you? Which of these is most appealing to you? I know you did some rewatch of classic Animaniacs leading up to this.
I did. Yes, also excited about Clueless, but I feel like that was very well covered by Lana. Animaniacs is going to be awesome. I'm very curious if they are going to keep with all the tiny little the side plots that are happening, because every episode was like full of 5-minute little interstitials of, okay, now it's Wacko, Yakko, and Dot. Now it's Pinky the Brain. Now it's Chicken Boo. Now it's Slappy Squirrel. I love all the side characters that are not the main 3 also, and I really hope they bring all of those guys back because that was like my favorite part. Like Pinky and the Brain, obviously, that got its own spinoff. And it's crazy because I think isn't Steven Spielberg still executive producing this one also? So yeah. Good. Cool. I guess you got some time, bud. Thanks.
Exactly. Yeah. He's a guaranteed season 2 order all the way. From what I read, I do believe that Pinky and the Brain and I think some of those other interstitials are going to be coming back because I think the way they write Animaniacs, it doesn't necessarily lend itself to a 22-minute just one story with the Warner Brothers and their Warner sister Dot. Yeah, I'm just so curious as to how they're going to update it. I saw a very bleak video that was going around where someone re-edited Yakko's Countries of the World song to reflect the countries that Americans can now travel to. and it's
Oh.
mostly silence, punctuated by the occasional like Mexico and Tunisia.
Yeah, I mean, I love how that show is able to be like sort of educational and have songs like that, but then also just be like, and now we're commenting on the state of the Warner Brothers, the hierarchy behind the shows. And as a little kid, I didn't understand any of that, but I just like the songs, and as an adult, I appreciate all that stuff. I mean, just going back through and rewatching it, really, I complain a lot about like how work is. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's nice when you have a show that both parents and children can enjoy,
Yeah.
but for different reasons. Henry, what do you think about this? Which of these reboots is most appealing to you?
Well, Animaniacs makes me feel old because, all the millennials now are in their 30s with kids and they can finally share something that isn't like the Flintstones or kind of just really outdated animation material because there's so much out there. But yeah, I hope the Mafia pigeons come back because I cannot look at a pigeon without thinking of the Mafia.
Yeah, I mean, like, and how many kids had actually seen Goodfellas and understood what they
Right.
were specifically mocking at the time? But now,
Yeah, and also, Clueless. If they bring Clueless back, I hope they put in the North Hollywood liquor clown. That's a really important piece because I'm out here in North Hollywood.
And
That was a
I got really excited because when I moved to LA, I saw that thing and I literally pulled over. I was like, "Oh my god, it's from Clueless!"
well, like she gets robbed there, so now it's pretty gentrified, and there's a lot of people. I mean, it's a completely different scene.
yeah,
And Saved by the Bell, I think that's it looks funny. I love Cobra Kai. I love all the revivals of the 90s, and Mario Lopez looks even better than he did back then. So it's gonna be an interesting crop of new but old stuff.
yeah, it's I'm glad you brought up Cobra Kai because I think that's a great example of taking an older legacy property and attacking it from a different angle that has yielded outsized results. That show moving from YouTube originals over to Netflix now. I think the first 2 seasons are streaming now. If not, they should be available soon. They're making a third season over on Netflix. But it just goes to show that these aren't like it is possible to make something worthwhile. It's not just kind of like a cynical venture in storytelling. And one of the things I liked about the Saved by the Bell trailer is that they play a lot with, it's very self aware. They play a lot with tropes. Like they mention how the seniors looked so old at the school, and they cut to like extremely old actors in like Letterman jackets, and they did a fun riff on the infamous caffeine pills storyline. So it's nice to see that they are going to acknowledge some of the more ridiculous sitcom tropes of the 90s and reimagine them moving forward. We have Justin Richards in the chat saying, I want more reboots of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles knockoff cartoons. Give me more Street Sharks, Biker Mice from Mars, and Swamp Cats. We also have Primark359 saying, Gargoyles reboot on Disney Plus would be cool. Hell yes to that. More Gargoyles, please. Well, let's move on from these reboots and move on to the world of adaptations because over on Netflix, there's some other stuff brewing. So they say that there are no creative differences in Ba Sing Se, but are there? Because last week, Avatar fans were shocked to learn that Avatar The Last Airbender creators Michael Dante DiMartino and Brian Konietzko exited Netflix's upcoming live-action adaptation of the hit animated series. And some have said this is the worst thing to happen to Avatar since M. Night Shyamalan back in 2010. Now, DiMartino and Konietzko both issued fairly damning letters about this, citing what they referred to as an unsupportive environment at Netflix, and claimed that whatever the final result of the live-action show was, it definitely would not be their creative vision. So my question to you folks is, can a show like Avatar The Last Airbender catch a break? Is this show just not meant to exist in live action? What does it need to do to succeed? So, Henry, let's start with you on this one.
Well, I think it's an interesting. I mean, the backlash on Netflix from the fans was incredible. There were so many people very passionate about the situation. It's unfortunate that the creators of of this amazing idea aren't able to see through what they want to do. That's just something that really bums me out. And I hope in some future where M. Night Shyamalan's Avatar doesn't exist, or some alternate timeline, I feel like just some things might not be able to ever see the screen. You know, the Avatar comics by Gene Yang and all the amazing people at Dark Horse that did that book, or all the creators. There's so much Avatar additional materials out there that hopefully people can find those if they're not going to support the Netflix series.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, is just because the Netflix series might not be what you want it to be, and we don't even know what it's going to be yet. It's just not what the creators want, but there is still so much more Avatar and Legend of Korra lore and stories to experience through things like Dark Horse Comics. And we actually have a video on the channel for Animation Investigation where Hector Navarro explains what kind of happens after Avatar and Korra. So if you want to learn more, check that out. But I think that's a great way to kind of get your Avatar fix in the meantime, have your cake and eat it too. Michelle, what do you think about this news?
Also agree, the comics are very good. Please read them. And they're, very low investment. Okay. The bar is so low. After M. Night Shyamalan just was like, I'm gonna do this my own way. There's something about like live action adaptations are like, we're bringing you back all your favorite characters in a brand new way you've never seen before, and it's like, we don't want them in a different way. We want them the way we like them, because that's why the series is popular in the first place. What are you doing? So I feel that a lot in my heart, that people tend to take properties, especially animation. It is the curse of, especially anime to live action, that it tends to fail because people just take too many liberties and they just want to reinvent the wheel for no reason, even though the first thing was really good. I don't think that the showrunners, the creators leaving guarantees it's going to be bad, but it's not a good sign. It's definitely not a good thing, since they made this baby that everyone loves, and they felt that if the environment wasn't conducive to them making a good show, like what are they doing to the show? So I'm a little worried, but I also don't have a lot of trust in adaptations, honestly. My heart's been broken too many times.
Yeah, I mean, especially with Netflix's track record with Death Note, which is legally a movie. I raise an eyebrow whenever I hear they're adapting an anime or animated series into live action, because there are so many hurdles. And it's not to say that adapting Avatar is impossible, and it's not to say that this adaptation couldn't be good. It's just disheartening to hear so early in the process, after everyone was so publicly professing how this was going to be the version, like especially with the showrunners and the creators. So I don't know. It's just a bit of a bummer. It's just like you're sitting there with your cart full of cabbages and hopes, and then something wrong, and your hopes and dreams of cabbages just spill all over the place. Yeah. Let's see, in the chat we have John O'Deener saying, Into the Spider-Verse is proof we don't need to rely on live action for everything and still have it taken seriously. Yeah. And Chaotic Looney says, Avatar was good animated, live action is usually not as interesting. Okay, I agree. I think animation is the better medium for certain projects. I don't know, Liana, what do you think about this? Do you think that there's hope for Avatar? Do you think that animation is just, what are your thoughts on this?
After reading the creators' response and seeing the fact that they didn't have like a very supportive environment, that does not give me hope, for one. And I agree with Michelle, just knowing that we've seen in the past that these animated series or movies have not translated very well into realistic or real life. And that's including, some comics and stuff like that. And some, properties are just made for the medium that they were created in. And seeing that the original creators were, obviously they said this is a good problem to have, but this is still a problem. You know what I mean? For them to recognize that and say that to their fans and be so sincere about it, that does not give me hope at all. But you would hope that Netflix has curated a good writing team, good animators, if there is any type of animation involved or anything like that. And one would hope, because it is a platform like Netflix. So
yeah, I just hope that whoever's playing Appa is being treated well, whatever creature they managed to wrangle for them. But no, I hear you. And because especially with certain properties, like Netflix is also making a live action Cowboy Bebop series with John Cho, which I am cautiously optimistic for, because I think that's one that could translate better, because it's more grounded in nature and less fantastical than some of the stuff that happens in other anime series. But they're also, if I'm not mistaken, doing a live action One Piece series, which the mind boggles trying to imagine Ichiro Oda's insanity brought to live action.
Yeah, and someone has the rights for My Hero Academia live action too.
Yes, that is our cool parent company, Legendary.
Oh, okay, well.
My Hero Academia movie, which you should all go see in like 2028. I don't know when it comes out. Anyway, speaking of movies and movie theaters, let's move right along. So movie theaters all over the world are slowly reopening their doors, maybe for better or for worse, mostly for worse, especially here in the US. And AMC has one of the most intriguing promotions of all, because they're only going to be charging 15 cents a ticket when they reopen on August 20th. They're going to be celebrating 100 years of business, and the venerable theater chain is going to celebrate that with what they're calling Movies in 2020 at 1920s prices. And fun fact, history does repeat itself, because the 1918 influenza pandemic, more commonly known as the Spanish flu, did not end until 1920. So right on the nose there. With the way that the world is going right now, could the prospect of dirt cheap opening day tickets be enough to get you back into a movie theater? Liana, let's start with you.
Did you see my face just now?
I did not.
don't think 15 cents will want me to put myself on death's door. So I think drive-ins maybe should come back, and these larger companies think about maybe trying a couple out.
Yeah, especially if they have access to a parking structure. I mean, there's several, drive-ins across the country are having a boom right now in business, because it really is the only game in town in many cases. A lot of these places have been closed for 5+ months.
I'm curious as to, like, especially those that own the building and or lots, if that they could utilize that and restructure and repaint the lines, honestly.
Yeah, I think it's just difficult in certain areas, because they might have access to the parking structure, but like they'd have to theoretically project it on the side of that structure. Maybe they'll just have like little screens throughout the parking lot. But Michelle, what do you think about this news? Would you pay 1920s rates to get 2020 illness?
I say this to everyone who questions me about, like, oh, why don't you just try doing this thing or try going to a restaurant? And I'm just like, I'm not a gambler in any sense of the word. My mom loves gambling. I've learned a lot about how it's not a good thing. Get into that later. But I will tell you that what is not ever on the line is me being alive. I like it. It's pretty cool. I think it's pretty great. I think me saving $14 and whatever the math is, 45 cents, is not worth me not being alive anymore. So I'm gonna stay home. I understand why they're doing it. There's the whole infrastructure of the system is broken, and that's why they need the money to pay the rent, because the landlords still have to pay the mortgage and da 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 da. But I mean, this is irresponsible. And I believe in California, you're not allowed to. Movie theaters are not going to let them open. There's no way this is happening here. So it's a lot of like, what can we do? What do we want to do? What should we do? And a lot of those answers are, no, we shouldn't do any of this. I mean, we all feel sad about being inside, and I really miss going to movie theaters. That's like one of the biggest things, like being in a big crowd and like laughing with people and buying crappy popcorn. But I don't like that more than being alive. So just my 2 cents.
Interesting counterpoint. I'll take that into consideration. But I think you make a great point, and I think that studios and theater owners are very conscious of that. I mean, this is obviously a stunt on AMC's part, because their business is just hemorrhaging cash. But Warner Brothers is still releasing Tenet only in theaters. Christopher Nolan's vision, empty theaters galore. But they're only releasing it in theaters that follow proper COVID-19 safety protocols and require customers to wear masks, following the protocols laid out by NATO, not that NATO, the National Association of Theater Owners. But my question is there any real way to enforce this? Like, would you feel comfortable if everyone was properly socially distanced and wore masks in the theater? Because I don't know if I would. It's still indoors, and you can't really do anything about that. Henry, what do you think?
I used to work for a movie theater, and it was the best experience of my life. And let me tell you, when you go to a movie theater, you become a different person. Like, you don't clean up after yourself. You spill things everywhere. So I feel like asking people to be clean in a movie theater or respect rules, it's a big ask, especially in 2020. Um, where do you even get 20 cents or 15 cents? Like, there's a coin like shortage, or just the way we're sending coins. Like, nobody keeps that kind of money on them. Everyone's got to pay with a debit card for 15 cents. I don't know. This is
See,
a
that's how they
weird.
get you. They charge you the extra 50 cents to use the debit card transaction, so it's bumping it up to at least 1940s prices, which is some real horse shit. But meanwhile, in China, where they have things more under control, apparently, their theaters have reopened, and they are trying to coax guests back into going to movie theaters by putting things like fan favorite movies like Harry Potter back on the big screen, and it's yielding big bucks. I think it made like $13 million there over the weekend. Is there, I mean, is there any movie that could get you back into the theater? Is there a movie that you would be dying to see on the big screen without dying, or is it just drive-ins or bust until there's a vaccine? Liana?
Uh, for those that know me, they know that I would pay a lot of money to go see all the Oceans trilogy again.
Oh my goodness, yes.
And obviously, the usual rotation, Star Wars. Honestly, I'd kill to see Birds of Prey again. I got to do it on my birthday right before, the shutdown. So I feel like I didn't see it as many times as I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
But, definitely some old school ones like that. Or maybe Inception.
Well, they were actually, I think Warner Brothers is doing that. I think they are re-releasing Inception in theaters partially as a way to test the waters, as it were. But yeah, that'd be a fun one to see. I have fond memories of seeing that back when it first came out, and now I just want a breakfast sandwich thinking about Birds of Prey. But Michelle, what about you? What movie would you like lose it to see on the big screen?
Wait, is the question what movie would I die to what?
No. What movie are you dying to see
I see.
without actually dying?
The figurative sense, got it.
Yes.
Worse phrasing. I'm really excited about Wonder Woman 1980. I lost it. Nailed it. Okay, 1984, and I wish I was really excited to see Mulan in the theaters. Despite all the controversy and stuff behind it, I do want to support Asian Americans being in films, and that was, I was really excited for it, and I still have a pin from Disneyland. Or like, I went there during Chinese New Year, and they had they're giving out Mulan pins. It said May 28th, Mulan coming, and I still have it in my bathroom. Like, God damn it.
Collector's item now.
I know. But I was excited for that. I think when you physically go to a theater, you feel like you're really supporting, the filmmakers and the actors and stuff. And I don't really have that feeling when I'm just queuing things up on Netflix. It feels so passive. So I miss the experience. Absolutely, I do. But yeah, it's gonna. Man, I'm not gonna go now.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought up Mulan. We covered that in depth on Nerdist News recently, and tried to get into some of the economics behind it, because that's a movie that cost $200 million to make, plus millions of dollars more in promotion and marketing. So it's an interesting experiment putting it on a premium service like Disney Plus for an additional premium. But that $30 fee, it's not just a one-time rental fee. You will have access to that movie for as long as you're a subscriber. So I'm very fascinated to see how that plays out, especially when other studios are going the opposite way, like Warner Brothers with Tenet. So, I mean, they are really hoping this can get people back into theaters, but Disney, on the other hand, is just like, well, why don't we roll the dice on this movie, and if that works, then maybe we have a plan of action for movies like Black Widow.
Yeah.
So we shall see. They just definitely can't achieve that same level of box office in the meantime. Now, real quick before we move on, Henry, is there a movie that you would love to see on the big screen when and if you can again?
Oh yes, Waterworld.
Fantastic. The actual Waterworld, or a video of the show they do at
Universal? The video of a show at the Universal Studios. One of my favorite moments in LA was the first time I went to Trader Joe's out here. The guy behind me was getting rung up, and he looked at the cashier and he said, "Do I know you?" And the cashier said, "Yeah, I play Dennis Hopper in the Waterworld Universal Studios." And he was like, "Oh yeah," and then that was it. So yeah, Waterworld.
Fantastic. What a strange like sense memory to recognize someone from. Like, I've seen you, but I can't place it. That was not what I was expecting, but good on you. Well, let's move away from the world of pop culture for a moment into the world of tech and science for a segment we like to call Tech Yourself Before You Wreck Yourself, or Tie-By-Why If You're Nasty. Now, Japan has always felt a bit like they're living in the future, but now they really are. Because last week on Nerdist News, we covered a company aptly named SkyDrive Inc. that wants to bring flying autonomous cars to Japan as early as 2023, as in 3 years from now. So these are going to be two-person autonomous vehicles. They're initially going to launch as a type of sky taxi service in Osaka or Tokyo. The company put out a really delightful kind of proof of concept trailer for what that ride would look like. So my first question to you folks is, would you ride in an autonomous flying car?
Hell
Michelle,
yes.
Oh, Henry, let's start with
go
you.
ahead.
No,
Michelle, please go.
You're real excited. I'm the kind of person that doesn't even buy the first generation of like, I try to think of an example, but like of technology, because I'm like, oh well, the first one's gonna be bad, the next one will be better, you know.
like a video game console.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I'm sure it's gonna be real cool, and I think, what is it, like gonna be $500 for a one-way ride or something like that? I saw in the article. It's gonna be real cool for some rich people to test out, and again, gambling with your life, not a cool thing that I like to do. So I think it is there are Jetsons future that we were promised as children, so that part's nice. But I will wait till maybe like Gen 3 or 10 of these flying cars to give it a shot. They look awesome. It's some very like Tony Stark stuff happening with the monitors and how you operate it. But
yeah, the video, I highly recommend everyone check it out. SkyDrive Inc. They have these really cool like heads up displays, and one person is just like, oh, mute outside noise, and then it just becomes this like noise canceled like space car from the future, which is just fantastic. Henry, you seemed very excited to ride in this autonomous flying car. Tell me.
I mean, like we could barely drive on the ground and we're just jumping up in midair. I mean, yeah, I want to be the first person that like it explodes, and everyone will like say, yeah, what happened to Henry? He died in a flying car in Japan. That's cool.
Yeah, that's a more badass headstone than most people get. And then people would say, just don't get Henry'd moving forward.
Exactly. Well, they already say that for something else.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you want your name to be associated with a cool disaster.
Yeah.
Liana, what about you?
My immediate was like, yes, beam me up to this like Westworld futuristic looking like fancy way to arrive to work. But in reality, kind of what Michelle said, I don't know if I trust the first couple versions. Also, we don't know when it's going to come to the States. I would love to visit Japan, but I'm not entirely sure that because of my fear of heights that I would pick that as like my top to do visiting Japan. It's like past the Evangelion statue or whatever. So part of me is like, that would be an unreal experience, better than scuba diving, better than all that stuff. But at the same time, we've seen cartoons and stuff where things crash in the air all the time. I don't want to get Henry. So
yeah, I've seen too many fantastic guests of this show get Henried over the years that I don't want that to happen to everyone else.
Hashtag don't get Henried.
We have Osborne in the chat saying, first I want to see a hoverboard. We were told they would be here by 2015. Once again, Hollywood lying to us. And the hoverboards that were popular were just like, hey, what if it was a scooter, but you leaned and there was nothing to hold on to? I want a real hoverboard. Would you ride in a regular autonomous self-driving car? Do you have the same qualms with that as a autonomous flying car?
Did you see the show Upload and how his autonomous car murdered him?
I will say that up until the whole him getting murdered part, I was like, wow, this is really cool.
Yeah, because technology can fail.
Like an escape hatch situation that is not going to be overridden by an AI trying to murder you, then I would say maybe.
Yeah, and I think with at least with the SkyDrive stuff, when it first launches, it's only going to be accessible by one person at a time because the other seat is going to be taken up by a human pilot to make sure that nothing goes wrong. So they can assume direct control
Wow.
in case the AI is just like, so time to like entering power save mode.
Restart. Loses a connection to the Wi-Fi.
Would you like to update Adobe Acrobat Reader? No. But speaking of hoverboards and autonomous cars and all that, is there a sci-fi invention like, like a jetpack or a flying car or something that you've seen in pop culture over the years that you wish that we had now?
I'd say Minority Report, the whole movie, Just
yeah,
like,
you want eyeballs in a bag?
Yeah.
I'm tired of keeping them in my head. I do love those, like their vision of kind of like haptic computer interfaces though. It's just like became synonymous with just like, yeah, why do I have to touch a keyboard? Let me just reach out the air,
just like, Tony Stark everything.
Yes, make the whole air a touch screen. Liana, what about you?
Oh, my first immediate thought was lightsaber, obviously.
Ooh.
It'd be fun to cut stuff in half. But the idea of, I love that our technology is getting so good to where we're able to have like screens and mirrors and stuff, knowing that it's like so close, but not yet, Yes. It would be fun to like move screens around, kind of like a cat, I guess, the way.
I think a cat would lose their mind if they had a Minority Report style computer. Michelle, what about you?
Didn't someone make a lightsaber? And then like it was just like so dangerous. So like, oh no, we can never make these.
Yeah,
it's gonna melt your face off.
I believe it was the Hacksmith on YouTube made what he called a proto saber, and if you haven't seen that video, check it out. Very dangerous.
Yeah. So I just was thinking about that for a long time after I saw it. I don't know. I wish teleportation existed. The Star Trek like beam me up. I'm so tired of cars, trains, and automobiles. It's such a slog.
Yeah, just download me to another planet already.
Yeah, the idea of upload is pretty cool. Like if you can just upload your brain to something else and enjoy that for a while, then come back if you're still alive. All that good stuff. I don't know. It's just kind of. I think we're all really fantasizing about escape right now for obvious reasons. So I thought about that a lot.
Well, I will say things could always get worse because just when you thought that 2020 could not get any more nightmarish, it already has, because a recent report in The Independent says that researchers at the University of Oxford they're investigating something called Charles Bonnet syndrome. It's a condition that causes people with visual impairments to experience vivid visions of horror, ranging from things like, quote, bizarre lifelike hallucinations of everything from spiders crawling out of books to Victorian families appearing randomly in crowds, according to Dr. Amit Patel. So hopefully they will find a cure for this mysterious condition. But tell me, what is the scariest or most unsettling vision that you would have if you were to experience something like this? For me, the spiders, definitely. I don't want a bug in my house to begin with, but dozens of spiders pouring out of like my Kindle is absolutely not something that I need in my life. Henry, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think I think they should just call that being alive in 2020. I guess my scary visual would be seeing Ben Shapiro just appear out of nowhere doing mundane things. That guy terrifies me.
Yeah, he is it's very scary just how often he appears in my timeline on Twitter. I hope people know they don't have to share his stuff. You can dunk on him without retweeting him into my life. Yeah, definitely. I feel you about 2020. Like it'd also be very scary just to see your calendar and it says December 32nd.
Oh wow.
20. Liana, what about you? What would be your mysterious, spooky vision?
Definitely the Groundhog Day version that you just mentioned of 2020. I think I watched way too much horror related stuff, so I think mine is more like creeping from the shadows type person, unexpectedly, and then you look up and it's not actually there. I've watched, 2020 is not a good idea to start a horror movie podcast, and yet here I am researching very many horror movies.
Look, you're taking control of the narrative. You are reasserting your dominance over 2020. I think that's an admirable thing to do.
I'm feeling if I get this disease, I'm just feeling the content for my brain to replace the areas of the horror. So it could be.
I'll just have to get some of those like lenticular glasses that just show a different hologram instead. Michelle, what about you?
Okay, first of all, this disease is insane. I looked up a little more because I also have failing eyesight. I mean, I can still see, but like it's getting worse every year. And I'm pretty sure I don't want to live in like a Charlotte Bronte novel where there's just like an old lady in the attic. But I'm trying to think of like things that I'm scared of that I could actually see. One thing that I recently found out I'm scared of is when puppeteers is what they're called, are holding the puppet, but I can still see their hands and their bodies. I don't know what it is, but it makes me feel like I get chilly and I have to like shut my eyes or leave the room. This happened at like Comic-Con, I think 2 years ago. Some of my friends were like, "Oh, we brought our felted friends," and they pulled out their bag, and I was trapped in a booth. I was sitting on the inside part, and they started like doing it, and I was like, "Oh, that's cute," and then I started getting like, my eyes started to tear up, and I was just like, "Hey, I have to go to can you please get out? I have to go to the bathroom."
Oh no, just Muppet body horror.
So I think if I had this the Charles Bonnet syndrome, I would probably see my friends holding their puppets, and that's real messed up.
All right. So to all those puppeteers and muppeteers out there, please stay far, far away, especially if Michelle's eyesight gets any worse. Well, let's move on to a potentially more hopeful story. We mentioned kind of sci-fi stuff earlier, but in mankind's latest attempt to defy the laws of nature, an LA-based tech company called Portal has unveiled its AI-powered Storyfile X Epic Portal. It's a hologram projection machine that looks like a telephone booth, and it's designed to let people visit one another as realistic holograms. And moreover, they said it can also be used to bring historical figures and dead relatives back to life. So my question to you folks is, would you use a machine like this, and who would you most want to talk to? Liana, let's start with you.
I do not like this concept. I think though, any type of cool rapper or musician that passed away would be kind of cool, but you know, they do those at concerts anyway.
Like the Tupac at Coachella.
Yeah, the most I'd be getting out of it is like some random advice that a writer like typed in, you know, for queuing in of questions. I would maybe consider it for like a passed away pet, but not a human being for sure. Just no.
Yeah, I'm with you. I feel less about like a celebrity or like a famous person. Like I wouldn't hesitate to use it for that, but I would definitely not want to use it for a dead relative. That just seems super morbid. But again, who am I to police someone else's grief? I read a story recently. I think it was either in Japan or Korea. They recreated this woman's child who had passed away. She was like 7 years old or so. They recreated a version of her in VR, and it was like the woman is just like overjoyed to get the chance to like see her child once more, kind of like before her in a virtual reality environment. So I can see some sort of therapeutic applications beyond kind of just riffing on it, but for me personally, I don't think I would use it to like visit my grandmother, for example.
I think any amount of closure for somebody like that is worth the money. So I think that's a great tool. I agree. Like my brain does not work that way. I think honestly, it sounds a little unsettling, but yeah.
Yeah, Michelle, what about you? Is this unsettling for you? Or
I'm pretty sure that this invention was already happened in Harry Potter, and Harry Potter sees his parents and gets obsessed with it, and then he has to like knock the habit. What was that mirror called? Like the mirror of
Erised?
Yeah, what a shitty mirror. So it only shows you dead people. I feel like in reality, what this is gonna be used for is porn, because that's like, come on, you know, like it's gonna be used for we were gonna use it for porn. One, two, I think has better applications for teleconferencing and you know, hanging out with people basically that don't live close to you. I think, you know, now that we've been in isolation so long, when we're doing a Zoom meeting, you can't read body movement, and that kind of like that's really important in communication. So like on a serious note, I think it'd be a really good business tool. And I don't know why I said that, because that's a very boring answer, but
look, I think you said what we were all thinking. computer, initiate sexy Abraham Lincoln protocol. Total.
Yes. I think it has more applications for like fictional stuff than it does.
Yeah,
You know,
I
that
think
way.
it'll be a huge boon for museums and stuff like that as well, where you can bring history to life.
Like, why did they jump straight to dead people? That's crazy to me.
I mean, look, it's a big old marketplace. I think that they're definitely onto something. But we are running a little short on time, so let's move on to our big topic of the day, DC Comics. So DC Comics had a bit of a tumultuous summer, to say the least, because after severing their ties with Diamond and shaking up the world of distribution, DC Comics unfortunately suffered massive layoffs after its parent company, Warner Media, began cleaning house. And these layoffs have severely affected multiple departments across the company, with the editorial, collectibles, and DC Universe teams getting hit especially hard. I believe it was somewhere around 20% of their workforce. So obviously, our hearts are with all of those who lost their jobs. This is a very cruel time for something like that to happen. But what do you think this means for the comic book industry at large? Henry, let's start with you. You might be muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
All right, sorry. Yeah, I'm in the valley near Burbank. I have a lot of friends that work at DC Comics. They have families, and this is really a devastating loss for a lot of people that have given their lives to the comic book medium in these corporate structures. And there's some amazing talent out there now, as far as editorial, that I'm assuming will be uh, absorbed somewhere else, because when you have that, there's a lot of people that have a lot of connections within the comic book industry. DC Comics has had such a strong, I guess, resurgence with printing monthly comics and graphic novels, and we're looking at this as it's just really unfortunate to see these characters be kind of put under a lens that's going to be for basically adaptations, which is what it's always been about. But yeah, this is a huge ripple effect within the comic book industry, as far as people that work for the publisher and a lot of retailers that rely on DC and Marvel products. So yeah, we're in uncharted territory, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do going forward.
Yeah, I think you bring up a great point with how it's going to affect the industry as a whole, and also like whether or not they're just going to use these characters as launch boards for other properties. Jim Lee, who is the publisher over at DC Comics, he's still with the company, and he had a wide-ranging interview with the Hollywood Reporter, and he wanted to dispel some of these rumors. He asserted that DC is still in the business of publishing comics, and he tried to assuage fans that AT&T and Warner Media want out of the publishing business. That said, they are still trimming a lot of their lines. I think he referred to it as kind of the bottom 20-25% of their titles, things that weren't meeting their sales goals. And I know they're going to be experimenting more with digital comics versus print comics. Like Injustice, those comics based on the video game were extremely high performing digital titles. And then they also had success as a print title when they made that leap. So using digital as perhaps an experimenting ground for print comics moving forward. But Liana, what do you think is what do you see as the path forward for DC in the wake of this? How do they step forward positively out of a loss like this?
I'm not on the publishing side of things, so I really respect like Henry's view of things, and it's really nice to know somebody that's kind of knowing what's going on. But as a previous working in retail, digital has always been like the future of things that we know that will be successful, in that the delivery is, there's no overhead and whatnot. And it looks like, from what you could tell already with them doing the Injustice thing, and I know that even I think the Walmart exclusives that they were originally doing ended up going to digital too. So it would be nice if, they continued to keep a lot of the creators and editors on to, keep telling these stories and utilize the fresh stuff for these IPs or licenses, and maybe even possibly do a model in which Marvel has done, where they go through IDW and release certain types of characters and books, and hopefully see them be as successful, and if not, bring in more of the comic industry under their belt, which would be really a dream thing in terms of like still revitalizing the comic industry, especially because most of it is on rocky waters with 2020. So, and obviously my heart goes out to everybody at DC and everything like that. So that's, I think digital.
Go ahead.
Digital's, sorry.
Sorry, were you going to say something, Henry?
Yeah, I also want to add there's a lot of women that were promoted to like more positions of power. Like Marie Jervins is the I guess editor-in-chief now, who's worked at Marvel and who's behind a lot of the YA books and just the comics for the last decade and a half. So we're hopefully going to see more people like that get more recognition.
Yeah, and one of the things I liked about Jim Lee's interview is that he also mentioned they're going to revive the Milestone Comics imprint and try to still have some experimentation outside of the kind of tried and true characters of Batman, Superman, etc. Get some fresh ideas and voices in there as well. In that interview also, Jim Lee basically confirmed, it seems like, the demise of DC Universe as we know it. All the DC Universe originals are going to be moving to HBO Max, which felt kind of inevitable. He did say that DC Universe is still going to be around in some form, but what do you hope happens to the service and its offerings moving forward? Do you foresee a world in which this is like an add-on to HBO Max or something? Michelle, what do you think is going to happen with this service? Is it just like kind of waiting out the clock?
I mean, DC Universe is one of those streaming services that not a lot of people I knew had it, or if they, if they had it, they were like sharing it with a lot of people, or they were just like, oh, I'm not going to pay for it. I'm just going to download it off the dark web. And I think it was struggling, to get subscribers because it kind of had a really limited amount of stuff and it didn't have a huge backlog of shows. So I think it was inevitable that was going to last forever. I mean, it played out for about a year, 2 years or so. Time means something. It's been a couple years since it started. But I think, joining their content with HBO Max means at least the stuff on there is going to get more eyes on it for sure. HBO Max, as seen yesterday, is not the best app for watching anything, but hopefully they'll fix it. But I think, in that way, at least that's a good thing. If DC is going to be making exclusive content for somebody, it'll be on a platform people can see it and know about it. I think a lot of stuff that a lot of people are calling like, stuff that came out in DC Universe sort of sleeper hits because they're like, oh, I didn't know about it because like no one, I don't have that service. I've never even heard of that title before, so it was hard for that stuff to get noticed, and hopefully we'll know.
Yeah, I mean, I've already seen that with shows like Doom Patrol and Harley Quinn that are getting a lot more eyeballs on them now that they're on a service that has a wider reach like HBO Max. And yeah, I think that you alluded to an issue with HBO Max in regards to people trying to watch Lovecraft Country, which is excellent, by the way, which premiered last night. Misha Green's new series based on Matt Ruff's novel. And that, I think, problem is due to some of the behind the scenes business side stuff where they have not negotiated proper deals with Roku or Fire Stick. I forget which, but there are a lot of eyeballs that cannot see these shows yet because contracts have not been properly hammered out. But that is a bummer for that. Let's move on to something that is hopeful in the world of DC Comics, and that is this coming weekend's very ambitious, gigantic 24-hour virtual event, DC Fandome. So fans can expect updates on everything from new video games like Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League to their favorite Arrowverse TV shows to the comic books, the latest on movies like Wonder Woman 1984 and Black Adam. So with this giant event encompassing so much, is there a panel or an announcement or a show or movie that you were most looking forward to learning more about? Liana, let's start with you.
Wonder Woman, I want to see more trailer. They've teased us way too much. Yeah, I figured Michelle would agree with me. They've teased way too much not to. They did such a great job, in my opinion, with Birds of Prey, and I'm surprised at how much maybe the marketing wasn't as pushed as far, or I'm not even sure, but 1984 in that what they have dropped already is so intriguing, and so I'm really excited about that. And honestly, any information of what they're going to do in the future, of how, like, even if it's subtle hints of what they're going to do with like the toy line or anything like that. So but mostly just Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I mean their schedule is jam packed, so I think hopefully everything is going to be covered. I know there is a DC Direct panel, I believe, or something talking about the collectibles. So hopefully there'll be some cool Wonder Woman 1984 gear, maybe a Steve Trevor branded fanny pack or something like that. Playing into it. But Henry, what about you? Is there a panel or announcement you're most looking forward to?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely so excited for Wonder Woman. It's been too long since the first movie came out. Any comic book news, it's good to see friends up there. And yeah, it's going to be a little interesting to see after all layoffs and kind of the controversy. But I think it's very ambitious, and it's going to be fun to see the Twitter reaction to everything, especially how everyone's going to respond to the Snyder Cut, which I'm not very excited for, but for some reason the internet is just obsessed with it.
Yeah, I'm very curious about the Snyder Cut, and I will definitely watch it when it comes to HBO Max. Good for those folks; they got what they wanted. We've talked about this on the show before, but I do hope that it gives Zack Snyder the closure that he needs with this movie, given the unfortunate and tragic circumstances that led to his departure from the film. But Michelle, is there obviously Wonder Woman 1984, is there anything else that you are super excited to learn more about DC Fandome?
I'm like curious about the Aquaman 2 panel because I don't feel like we know anything about this movie. Like, who's in this movie? Like, what's happening? I was very surprised to see that on there. This is very much like DC's version of their Comic-Con announcements since that never happened. But definitely interested in that one. There's a lot of movies on here that are just like, there's the Flash panel too. I think it was cute that they have a Suicide Squad panel that's going to be just the cast trying to answer trivia for 25 minutes about comic books. So they did try to like make things fun. It's not just like interviews, it's also like game shows. There's a panel about like the history of the Flash, which I think is pretty cool, like talking about it from the very beginning of the comic like into what it is today. So it's like educational. It's very nice. And I do like that. I did notice they were trying to be very inclusive, and even on panels where maybe the movies are pretty like white, they did try to at least have the hosts be like pretty multicultural. And I see that effort. I see you're trying. baby steps, huh? But here we are.
Exactly. Baby steps better than no steps. And I will say I'm excited just to see what they have in store, because if for people who don't know, putting on a virtual event is a challenging endeavor in and of itself, but trying to wrangle that many people, they have hundreds of guests coming to this. 24 hours of content is just bazoinkers. I'm also very excited to keep an eye on the Twitter feed because that's half the fun of any event like this, is getting everyone's nuclear hot takes at the same time as ingesting the information. As for myself, I am very curious about the Black Adam movie that feels like it's been in development for exactly 100 years with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. But there's also a mystery TBA panel at the Hall of Heroes, which is all of their movie stuff for the most part. And they already have panels announced for stuff like The Batman, Black Adam, The Flash, Wonder Woman 1984. Do you think this could be for another mystery DC movie? And if so, what movie do you think it might be? I'm gonna throw it out there and say it's gonna be Green Lantern Corps buddy cop movie.
Oh man, how cool would that be? So I got really excited. we need a good Green Lantern movie, please, God, someone give it to us.
Need another good Green Lantern movie.
Yeah. Just erase the run.
Yeah, I'm tired of cops, so I hope the Green Lantern stays on the shelf.
Okay, well that's less of a buddy cop in the general sense, less the they should be defunded sense.
Defund Green Lantern. I'm down for that if that's what that movie is.
If they make a movie about the Green Lantern Corps getting defunded, I would lose my mind. There is no more light to be had. Your lanterns are hereby rescinded. Maybe even that the Cyborg movie that was supposed to happen way back when, but got shelved. Or just give me Oscar Isaac as Hawkman in a time-traveling adventure movie. But Liana, what about you?
Oh, I was going to say anything Nightwing. I'm sure that it hasn't been talked about, right? From what I remember.
There was like some director attached.
Yeah,
I remember.
I think it was the one of the guys who was behind the Lego movie, Adam something. I apologize. It's been a while since I've invoked his name. I haven't thought about it in a minute. But there was also I think there was a Batgirl movie that was supposed to happen. There have been so many reports and rumors over the years, but who can say? Regardless, we'll all find out when it drops this weekend. Make sure you stay tuned to Nerdist. We're going to keep you up to date there, and we'll be breaking down all the biggest reveals next week on Talks Back. But now that we've gotten the news out of the way, it is time for a weekly edition of Nerdist News Trivia. And here at Nerdist, we like to connect our trivia to the barest of threads. So in honor of these unprecedented times in which we're living, I'm going to remind you to A, write to your representatives to demand action be taken against these brazen attempts to hamstring the U.S. Postal Service and potentially commit voter fraud, because mail-in ballots are a very legitimate thing, and you should all be upset about what's going on. And B, I'm going to give you folks a quote, and you have to tell me if this quote is from a real-life president or a fictional president from a TV show or a movie. Just answer with either real or fictional. And just to note, we're not going to be including impressions of real presidents, like Alec Baldwin as Trump on SNL would not be included in this. So if you have a pen, pencil, and crayon, something to write on, I'm just going to get started. And again, just answer real or fictional. Okay, let's start things off with an easy one. We will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. We're going to live on. We're going to survive. Today we celebrate our Independence Day. Is this real or fiction?
Do we just hold? I'm not cheating.
Yes, you just hold it up.
Oh, I guess my camera's mirrored.
You are all correct. It is fiction. That was President Whitmore from Independence Day, which I just rewatched, and holy crap, does that scene still slap? Just get chills. Maybe the best movie president of all time. Bill Pullman gives good president.
I tried to work that speech into my. I had to make a valedictorian speech to be submitted for acceptance. It's a long story, but anyway, it did not get accepted because they were like, "This seems like it's not your speech."
This seems too presidential, not valedictorial.
Got the hologram of Will Smith in the background.
Oh my God! See, I would use that to talk to hologram Will Smith, even though he's still alive. All right, question number 2. Let me give you some serious political advice. One single word: puppies, worth 10 points. Is this real or fictional? Let me give you some serious political advice. One single word: puppies, worth 10 points. That is real. That was President George Bush Sr., George Herbert Walker Bush.
Weird.
Oh, yes, weird indeed, but those 10 points quickly paid off for him. All right, next up, number 3. I'm going to tell you something really outrageous. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to tell you something really outrageous. I'm going to tell you the truth. Is this real or fiction?
I don't know.
Okay, Michelle, you got it correct. It is fiction. That is John Travolta as President Jack Stanton in primary colors.
I'm glad I broke my whole camera setup to do that, but
yes,
very proud of myself.
Definitely worth it. All right, let's move on to number 4. Is this real or fiction? The world as we know it will soon come to an end. The world as we know it will soon come to an end. Was that a real quote or a fiction quote? Unfortunately, that was fiction. That was Danny Glover as President Thomas Wilson in the hit film 2012.
I thought that was Donald Trump from the hit film 2020.
That's too many legible words strung together in a sentence. We need more random asides and self-aggrandizement. All right, moving on to number 5. Is this quote real or fiction? If you could kick the person in the pants responsible for most of your trouble, you wouldn't sit for a month. If you could kick the person in the pants responsible for most of your trouble, you wouldn't sit for a month.
It just sounds like a dad thing to say, and I feel like it's real.
Well, you are correct, because that was said by our daddiest president, Theodore Roosevelt. Bull Moose himself. T-Bone.
Yeah. Shout out to all the daddiest partners out there.
Yeah. All right, moving on to number 6. No man who ever held the office of president would congratulate a friend on obtaining it. No man who ever held the office of president would congratulate a friend on obtaining it. Is that real or fiction? That is correct, Liana and Henry. It is real. That was President John Adams, the president they based on a hit HBO miniseries. Okay, number 7. Let's see. Never again will I allow our political self-interest to deter us from doing what we know to be morally right. Never again will I allow our political self-interest to deter us from doing what we know to be morally right. Is that real or fiction?
I say fiction because it sounds too good to be true. Like that's what
you are correct. It is too good to be true. That was Harrison Ford as President James Marshall in Air Force One.
I love Air Force One, by the way.
Fantastic movie. I'm overdue for a rewatch of that. All right, question number 8. You don't know how to lie. If you can't lie, you'll never go anywhere. You don't know how to lie. If you can't lie, you'll never go anywhere. Is that real or fiction? Liana, I'm sorry. It is unfortunately real. That was President Richard Nixon.
Oh,
Keeping it classy.
I guess it's good I didn't know that.
You don't know how to lie.
Oh, he's President Nixon. Are you here with us today on the Zoom call?
I've been teleported.
That's a pretty good Nixon. All right, number 9. Do you know that when smallpox was eradicated, it was considered the single greatest humanitarian achievement of this century? Surely we can do it again, as we did in the times when our eyes looked towards the heavens and with outstretched fingers, we touched the face of God. Is that real or fiction?
Sounds wordy.
It is wordy because it's from The West Wing. That is Martin Sheen as President Bartlett. That is fiction, unfortunately.
I feel like it's very poetic. The speech traders now wouldn't put that much, that many analogies in a speech for president.
We lost people around humanitarian. We got to spice this up. All right, our 10th and final question, folks. Nearly all men can stand adversity, but if you want to test a man's character, give him power. Nearly all men can stand adversity, but if you want to test a man's character, give him power. The answer is indeed real. President Abraham Lincoln said that. All
yes,
right,
he did. I was there.
Oh my God, President Nixon. You're
I'm
everywhere
traveling.
I don't want to be. He was in the theater that night. All right, so let's see. I'm having advanced computers tabulate the results. Beep, boop, bop, bleep. Okay, they're in, and our winner with 8 answers out of 10 is Michelle. Congratulations.
It is an honor to be here and to accept this award for being the okayest at answering true and false questions. Thank you, everybody.
That is all we can ask for in this life. Thank you, everyone, for playing. And Michelle, because it's your victory, it's now time for our 30-second soapbox. It's the time to get whatever's on your chest off your chest. Talk about anything you want. And because you won, Michelle, you are up first. So what do you have for us?
I didn't prepare anything. I thought I was just supposed to say, like, you can find me on the internet at I am Trey Bunny. I'm just doing this self-promote, I guess. I'm having a lot of fun doing the Got Manga show for Viz Media. I basically just talk about like the themes and characters and morals and like the why of manga, which is not a thing that a lot of people associate with manga, which is not just for kids, guys. Manga and anime, they are a medium of storytelling. They are not a genre. They're not all the same. They're just like movies. Same with comics, and just dive in. There's something for everybody. And I don't know. I don't really have any more to say. Just find me on the internet, and I like talking about games and anime and manga, and I hope that one day I will see all of you again at a convention soon because I miss conventions so much. I don't know. That's all.
Yes. Well, I mean, the show sounds fantastic, and I want to second that because there is so much more than meets the eye to manga. There's a lot to dig into there, worthy of exploration and as much depth as you want to find in there. So definitely check out that show. Thank you so much. All right. Henry, let's move on to you next. It is your turn on the soapbox. What would you like to talk about?
Thank you. My name's Henry Barajas. On the internet, Henry Barajas wrote a comic called La Voz de Mayo, Thought the Rambo. It's about my great-grandfather, how he helped one of the last Native American tribes gain federal recognition, printed through Top Cow Productions and Image Comics. Currently at Top Cow, we got a new book by Stephanie Phillips and Craig Cermak coming out this Wednesday called A Man Among You #2. It's about female pirates. We also have a Darkness Kickstarter going on right now. Hopefully you can check it out. Our last stretch goal was to make the Darkness Jackie faceplate mask. Really excited about that. A lot of people recognize that character from the video games. Also, I've been getting a lot of exercise and trying to do, and I got my first jersey, Black Lives Matter jersey. So I'm really excited to cycle and continue the good fight. Thank you.
Hell yeah. That jersey is, where'd you get that jersey? That's awesome.
I got it from a Louisville bike store. That's I'll post a link, but Peak One.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Awesome. And yeah, definitely want to check out that Kickstarter. And yeah, amazing comics coming out of you folks. Can't wait to check them out.
Thank you.
And last but not least, Liana, it is your turn on the soapbox. What do you have for us?
You can find me everywhere on the internet at Liana Kangas. I have a creator-owned book, She Said Destroy, like you mentioned earlier. You can get it from your local comic shop or bookstore. I just wrote a short for TKO Studios with Joe Corallo, and actually Paul Azaceta is drawing it, and he's the one that did Outcast. And so that's going to be out later this year in print, which is a huge surprise. I still have the Inevitables Kickstarter going. Shout out to Jono, who's in the chat, who wrote it. And I also am doing a new book with Lisa Stroll and Matthew Werman, which is really fun. I just want to say a huge thanks to my wonderful comics community, the partners, and the True Bud crew, which are my fans and stuff on Patreon that I have available to join. If you're interested, it's a great comics community, very supportive, and Henry obviously is a part of it. And thank you so much for having me on, and shout out to Kate for introducing us. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
Shout out to Kate.
Shout out to Kate.
Yeah, thank you all so much for being here. I have to go read and consume all of your stuff because this has been such a fun chat with you all, and I want to experience all the amazing creativity coming out of you folks. Yeah, I really appreciate you guys taking the time. That's all for today's episode of Nerdist News Talks Back. I had a blast. I hope you guys did too, especially here on the panel and those of you joining us at home. And with that, just be sure to check out tomorrow's episode of Nerdist News. We're going to be breaking down some very cool stuff. And with that, we're going to break here. We're going to see you back here next Monday for a brand new episode of Nerdist News Talks Back at 2 p.m. Pacific, live on Nerdist and Geek and Sundry's YouTube channels and on Geek and Sundry's Twitch channel. So until then, stay safe, be healthy, wear a mask, take care of each other, and have a great day. Bye-bye.